What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new tutorial. Today we're talking about the topic that you have asked for like 100 times, and that is deep links with Capacitor. So in the past we've talked about deep links with Cordova, and I can already promise you it's gonna be a lot easier, although it's gonna be still challenging. So we're gonna go through the whole process and set up deep links, which are also called universal links on iOS and app links on Android, using Ionic, Angular, Capacitor, but we're not really touching a lot of Ionic app-specific code. We don't need any external packages. We can do this with a Capacitor core, and in the end we will be able to jump directly into our application by using a link that points just to our own domain. Just like you can see on other examples. So if you're using an Amazon link and you have the Amazon application installed, it will directly jump into a specific page of a product. And we're gonna basically replicate that with a details page in which we can jump with some additional information. As always, link to the tutorial right below the video for all the code. And of course, go check out the Ionic Academy if you're not yet a member, a full online school dedicated for learning Ionic. So I hope you enjoy the Academy, and I of course also hope you enjoy deep links with Ionic today. Alright, so let's get started with the application. Actually, we're not gonna do a lot of work in the Ionic application, but most of the time configure the application. So if you want to follow along with a blank application and test this out, just generate a new application and add a new page. And then you can run already the first Ionic build and add the Capacitor platform, iOS and Android. I recommend before you do that, maybe you check out your Capacitor config. I don't know why I have a JSON file, not the TypeScript file. Anyway, the important part is your app ID. So whenever you publish an application for iOS or Android, you need this app ID. It's a unique ID for your application. I just used something like this, and will be used for Android and iOS. So if you set this up before running Cap at iOS and Android, it will already use this in all the right places. Otherwise, you have to update this later, which can become challenging. But I'm going to show you a cool tool to automatically do this in the end as well. Now, let's see what we have to do. First of all, we change our app routing. In fact, I'm using all the changes already in here because it's only just a few things. I'm just gonna walk you through this. So I've set up a path details with a wildcard ID. That means we will be able to jump into the app by using our domain. In this case, I'm going to use devtactic.com/details/whatever information. On your page, you might have a different routing, so perhaps use a different path. This is completely optional, but that's just gonna how we set it up in this application. Now, to get that information on the details page, just a very classic pattern, injecting the activated route, getting the ID from the param map, and on the details page, and then display this ID, just so you can see that it actually works. Now, the whole magic for making Capacitor deep links work comes from the app component, and actually from just this simple line of code. And the cool thing about this is we're using the app object, which comes from Capacitor app, and we haven't installed any additional plugin package, anything, no Cordova plugins, really nothing. So we add an add listener, we add a listener to the app URL open event, and that returns us this cool event, which contains a URL and a bit of additional information on iOS. But most important is really only the URL. So if we open the URL, for example, https devtactic.com/details/whatever. Then right within here, the event.url would be this whole string. And of course, this string is not really helpful for our application. So to split this, I used devtactic.com in here and then called event URL split by this domain, which results in an array that looks somewhat like this. Okay, so we've extracted the first part and we have this part. And because in our application we have set up the app routing to have a route details/whatever, we can then directly use this by using pop on this array, which will give us the last element and use this directly for the routing. So we're just navigating to /details/42, just like we're navigating inside a regular application as well. You might have a different need. Perhaps there's some other information in the URL that you want to handle. You might have some if-else logic in here. You can put everything in here, really. You got the whole URL and you can do whatever you want with this. You don't have to use exactly this path for the router to navigate, really. This is just one example of how you could handle it to make it really easy. So you might have some additional logic, but really that's everything in the Ionic application using Capacitor that we need for Deeplinks. Besides a bit of configuration that will come. But from code, this is really everything. And I've found this really amazing after going through the setup for this. And I thought, like, really, that's all? And yeah, it really is all. But the harder part is now making our iOS and Android applications work. So let's start with iOS. In the beginning, I already told you, actually, I recently found this cool button to close all folders, really. I should check out the buttons in my IDE more often. In the beginning, I already told you that this is important. And you now need to start in your iOS developer account and go to this page of the certificates, identifiers, and profiles. If you haven't created an app ID, you're gonna create a new one. Otherwise, you can just use your app. Perhaps you already have an application in the store and you're now adding universal links to it. In any case, what you want to do is under capabilities, enable associated domains. That's really everything. I haven't enabled anything else in here, only associated domains. I think you can do it afterwards if you already created your application, because otherwise you could never do this for an old application. So I think it should be able to update your existing applications. Now, what you need is your team ID and the actual bundle ID, which is in my case, com-devdectic deeplinks. And we're gonna create a new file that is called Apple App Site Association without any ending. So it's not a JSON file. It looks like a JSON file, but it actually has no extension. And within that file, we're gonna need one entry that is called app links. Then you could specify a lot more information in here, like for which specific apps these app links are valid, or within the details for which specific path of your application this counts. But we're gonna do the most easiest example. So in our case, we're gonna use this for the following app ID. So in my case, it would be my team ID com-devdectic.deeplinks. So just put your team ID and dot in front of your bundle ID. This is really everything you need to create. Then you need to upload this file to your domain. In my case, I had to upload this to my devdectic domain, and I've put it into the folder .wellknown. And here you can see the file. And it's public available, and that's important. And you can check if you did the right thing by using a cool tool for testing. So this is called Branch.io. They offer a lot of services around this topic. I'm gonna just put in devdectic.com. You don't have to use this, just click test, and then you will see something, hopefully. Okay, so in my case, I get a green check mark, which means your domain is valid. Your file served over HTTPS, doesn't return something, your file's content type header was found and your JSON is validated. And there's the information from my domain. If any of these borders here is red for you, or I don't know if they could be yellow, you should definitely fix this, because this is usually the problem why deep links not work if you mess up this domain verification. Hosting this file on your domain simply shows Apple that you own this domain and you supply this additional information for asset links. And we're going to see the same for Android in a second as well. So for example, in the past, I served the file on my, I don't know what it was, Nginx server or something like that, but I had the wrong header set in Apache. So that already can be a problem that messes up completely your deep link setup. So make sure that you test this and everything is green. I've just put this Can we go back? No. I just used the well-known folders because it's a hidden folder. I think you could also have this file at the top level. I just don't felt comfortable about that, but you could do that as well. Okay, so you have served your file now. That is great for Apple. The only thing you now need to do is open your native project, the iOS project, and add one little thing. So within your app, you can go to Signing in Capabilities, and then you click Add Capability, and you add the associated domains entry, which I have already done in here. This comes with a dummy entry that you can remove, and then you add your own, which has this form. So I'm going to copy it out so you can see it clearly. What you want to have in there is app links and then your domain. Of course, not devdectic.com, that's not going to work for you, but your domain. And that is everything that we need for iOS, in fact. I'm gonna also maybe mirror my Mac. Yeah, of course it's not working yet. Do we want to take a look already at the automation? I'm gonna keep that for the end because that's quite interesting as well. So here is the app on my device. Actually, that's not the app, that's Safari, as you can see. And I'm gonna try and enter devdectic. Let me type like this: devdectic.com/details/ let's do some random numbers, and then open. And then what we're gonna hopefully see is our app showing up here like, please open in the devdectic link. And I'm like, okay, let's open this. And we're immediately on the details page with the information that we supplied through the URL. And that is exactly how the Deeplink should work. I've seen a problem in the past. Let me see if I can bring up the bug, where it's not working great if Chrome is set as your default browser. I have Chrome as default browser as well on my device, and when I use Chrome, it was kind of not working correctly. So when there was a link somewhere in the document, it actually worked kind of good and was opening it, but directly opening it in Chrome was a problem. So you can check out this open discussion on the Capacitor repository about this. It seems to be a known bug, but there are ways to overcome this using Firebase dynamic links or something else. Anyway, you've seen that it works on iOS. It was just this setup, uploading the file, and then we're done. And now let's take a look at Android. So for Android, we're gonna have to do a bit more. This is most like the way we used in the past with Cordova. So what you need to do first of all is generate a new key store, or if you already have a key store, then you don't need this command. But you can do it with this command. You might have to include the Android SDK build tools or something in your path, or you could directly use a path instead of using key tools, like path to Android SDK, and then something like build tools/key tool. So you could also run it like that if you haven't included it in the path. That's a common problem, but you should be able to figure this out quite quickly using Google. And then this will generate a new key store file. In my example, let's use that cool button again. I got my release key store file right here. I really used the alias name like this. I didn't supply any other name. And then the second command is key tool list the information about this file. So let me put this in. I actually don't know which password I used. Okay, it looks like it was this. And then you're gonna have some information about the key store. I just had to figure out the right information. And here is the checksum that you want. We're gonna now need this value inside another tool. Really, they make it really easy for us to do these things. So the statement list generator and tester. Let's do this. devdectic.com. My package name was devdectic. I think deeplinks. And then I can just copy over this little value here and put it in here and click generate statement, which generates this handy little statement. I think actually I created the file that looks a bit better. So this is how the file now looks like. We got some information, we got namespace, we got the package name, which is hopefully yours, and you see your checksum in here. So I just stripped this and removed all the information. It was exactly this information. Now you can see post this statement file at devtechnik.com, well-known asset links JSON. And guess what I already did up front? Can we please do this? I've already hosted that file on my domain. Once again, make sure that everything is right, and then you can actually use this tool to test it as well. So success, host grants app Deeplink to com devtechnik Deeplinks. Once again, make sure that this process here is valid and returns a green checkmark. If there's anything yellow or red, for whatever reason, make sure that you fix that before, because that is very likely the reason why your app link in the end won't work. Although there's maybe a second reason. Okay, so you've now hosted that file on your domain. We don't need that anymore. Let's keep this open. And there's one little thing that we now actually need to do in terms of code in our application, and that is within Android app source main Android manifest. So inside that file, you're gonna have to find the application, and then within the activity, and within the activity, you're gonna put in one little block. Let's see, after this intent filter, we're gonna add another intent filter that looks like this. Blah, 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 blah. And just make sure that here inside is your host. All the rest can stay completely the same. The only important part is making sure that your host information is in here. So next to the other intent filter inside the activity. Once you've done this, you can build your application in different ways. npx cap open Android. So you could build the application through Android Studio, no problem. Let me see if I can fit this in, yeah. The only thing you need to be careful about is how you build and deploy that application. So if you just deploy this application to your connected Android device, it might not work because your app is not signed with the key that we used to generate that asset link file. So we need to make sure we do that. And you can do this on the Mac. The menu is now completely at the top. It's a pity. There's generate signed bundle or APK. So I'm gonna just go with APK. And then you can select once again the key store path and enter the information, and then it will build through Android Studio your APK that you can deploy, and then you can open the browser or add the URL to your contact and then just go through your app just like we've seen on iOS. You can also do this from the command line. I don't know if it works already. I had problems on my new Mac. So in that case, you would have to go into the Android folder and run the native scripts to assemble the application. Let's see, I think this runs into an error that I haven't figured out yet. Actually, it looks pretty good so far. That's confusing. I thought this would fail, but I trust this will fail at some point. But that would be the other way to do it directly from code, or if you have any kind of continuous integration environment, then you usually don't want to build from Android Studio, so there we see some errors, which is somehow related to my M1. Actually, the build was successful still. Anyhow, okay, that's kind of interesting. Now, this will generate an APK, which is unsigned, and to sign that, we need two commands. So we first need the JAS signer and then zip align. As far as I know, both of them are also included in the Android SDK build tools. So this one uses your key store file, the path to the app release unsigned APK, and the alias name of your key store that you used before to generate that. And once you've done that, you can run the second command, which is zip align, now on the app release unsigned, and then finally picking any kind of name for your APK. And when you're done with that, you can just run adba install your APK directly to the connected device. So pick the way you prefer. I usually like this way a lot more because I don't like to click through Android Studio. This can be set up in a simple script. You can even supply for Gradle, for your Gradle builds somewhere. I used this in the past, the information about the key store, so everything can really just run automatically, especially in a continuous integration environment. Now, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you, and that is how to configure your native project. So you've seen how we, what did we do? Oh, for iOS, we added the capabilities manually within Xcode. Or if you use the default Ionic, startup, whatever bundle ID, you might have this in your Android folder somewhere still. And you might not want to find all the places where you want to have to change this, or anyway, there's a tool that I highly recommend and that I've also had a video about before that is called Capacitor Configure, and I definitely recommend you check it out. What you need to do to use this is, we're not going to use it from code, we're using the configuration tool, and for this simply run npm install capacitor configure inside your project, and then clicking this the third time today, create a config.yaml file at the top or at the root of your project. Now you can put a lot of information into that file, but the only thing we need right now are the variables here, so the bundle ID for iOS and the package name for Android. And then we can target the different platforms. And especially for iOS, this line here is interesting. So this is just setting the bundle ID in case you didn't do this before. But this line is actually adding exactly the entitlement to our app. So I'm going to remove it right here. And then we're going to see how it magically, hopefully, comes back up. For Android, I don't think we could add this intent filter automatically. This is really a bit, maybe it might work somehow. Might have to ask Max about that. But for Android, it's also updating our package name. And now we can easily run this by running npx capconfig run our config YAML file. And let's see. Please come up. No, of course it's not coming up right now. Maybe I'm gonna have to open it again. I don't know. It's not been yet. Oh, okay, in that case I somehow, oh yeah, I'm in the wrong folder. That makes sense. So let's run it from here. Do I want to apply these changes? Yes, I want to. Now I want to open iOS again. And then we see it is right here. Let's do this one more time. Can I maybe do this even side by side? I don't know how fast it is actually updating, but let's see if we can do this. Run config YAML, yes. Okay, it refreshes the view, and then AppLinks Devdactic is right here. So the Capacitor Configure package, as I've shown in another video, is really amazing to update the native settings of your iOS and Android project. So in case you don't want to do this through Xcode, go check it out. And at this point, we have configured the app with Capacitor for iOS and Android Deeplinks. On iOS, it's actually called Universal Link. On Android, it's called AppLinks. Usually you find information about this under Deeplinks, and if it's not working for you, I first of all recommend that you check the testing tools once again. So those really have to be green. For iOS, usually this works pretty easy. We've only seen this bug within Chrome, so give it a try with Safari. And for Android, you should make sure that your application is signed with the right key that you used for the generation of the asset file. But otherwise, I really hope this works for you. May the Capacitor and Deeplink gods be with you. Alright, and that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video about Deeplinks with Capacitor, and I must admit, it is really a lot easier than using Cordova. So in the past we had that Cordova plugin and we need to supply specific information to that plugin, and then the Cordova magic in the background needs to happen to make everything work. And now we just need two little things inside the native project, and besides that, the asset links and the Apple app site association file, whatever, the creation is still the same. So really make sure you got those two files correctly created and correctly hosted on your URL, and then I think there's actually not a lot that can go wrong. If there's something going wrong, let me know in the comments, but I really hope this process works for your Capacitor application. If you want to see anything else, my comments are always open for recommendations, so just let me know the next future topics that you would like to see over the next time. And I hope you, of course, are already subscribed, and if not, go subscribe at some place under the video. I will hopefully catch you next week, like always, so happy coding, Simon.